This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Good evening, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for July 29, 2023. And in the news this evening, recording artist charged with murder in St. Anne. A recording artist has been charged with murder following the stabbing death of a call center worker in St. Anne on Friday. Charged is 32-year-old Troy Walker of a St. Anne address. The deceased has been identified as 22-year-old Andre McDonald. Reports from the Brownstown police are that about 12:20 a.m., both men were at a function in their community when an argument developed between them. During the altercation, Walker allegedly used a pair of scissors to stab McDonald. McDonald left the function and later returned to Walker's home with a knife where he attacked him. A tussle ensued, citizens intervened, and the now deceased man was seen lying on his back in a pool of blood. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Walker was apprehended and subsequently charged on Friday after a question and answer session and an identification parade. Lawyers for Corporal Rohan James legally challenge his interdiction. Lawyers representing embattled the chairman of the Police Federation, Rohan James, have filed an application in the Supreme Court challenging the decision of Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson to interdict him. The application was filed Friday. The High Command said Corporal James has been charged internally for comments made at a recent funeral service for a fallen colleague regarding overtime pay for rank-and-file members. Corporal James had chastised the commissioner and his deputies over their overtime payments. Several groups have criticized the police commissioner for the decision to punish Corporal James. Attorney Hugh Wildman told the news that legal papers were submitted in the Supreme Court Friday afternoon seeking an application for leave for judicial review to quash the interdiction by the Police High Command.
An application was filed today in the Supreme Court seeking an application for leave for judicial review to quash the decision of the Police High Command to place Mr. Ron James on interdiction. That's one. Two, concurrent with that application is another application seeking a stay of the interdiction, okay? Pending the hearing and determination of the judicial review application. The interdiction is unconstitutional. It's a clear breach of the man's constitutional right to freedom of expression and freedom of conscience and thought. He has said nothing that offends the Constitution of Jamaica. Okay? So any regulation that he's charged under must give way to the Constitution. Okay? Which is the supreme law of the land.
The Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions has denounced what it calls the unfair interdiction of Police Federation Chairman Corporal Rohan James. The JCTU, responding on Friday to this development, said that the action by the Police High Command constitutes an infringement on the corporal's right to express the legitimate concerns and the grievances of his fellow officers. JCTU Vice President St. Patrice Ennis, elaborating on the organization's concerns, characterized the actions of the Police High Command as an affront to the principles of freedom of speech. The JCTU is demanding the immediate rescinding of the interdiction of Corporal James and is calling for an independent investigation into events surrounding the action.
He has not done anything that others have not done before him. What is the intent of such an action at this time? And so if he is to be muzzled and cannot speak freely, then I do not know what sort of leverage then the Confederation would have. And I look at this in terms of there are other organizations or there are other representative bodies in government where people are still within their employ. And I believe if this is allowed to stand, then it would also have an effect on how those organizations would represent their workers. And this is why the Confederation, which some of those other bodies, such as the JTA are members of, believes that we must speak out now and express our solidarity with Corporal James, because we believe this can have effects down the road.
Lawyers say fight to have corruption charges against the former education minister and the CMU boss not over. Lawyers representing former education minister Ruel Reid and the former Caribbean Maritime University president Fritz Pinnock are heading to the appeal court to challenge a ruling by the full court that they have a case to answer. In a ruling handed down on Friday, Supreme Court Justices Crescencia Brown Beckford, Lisa Palmer Hamilton, and Tricia Hutchinson Shelley refused an application from the lawyers representing Reed and Pinnock to quash a February 4, 2021 decision of Chief Judge of the Parish Court, Chester Crooks, that they should stand a trial in the multi-million-dollar fraud matter. The panel further refused an application by the two for a declaration that the statement made by Justice Crooks in handing down his ruling in the Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court Criminal Division was enough to have the charges brought against them dismissed. In addition, the panel ruled that the matter was properly before the court and rejected that claim that the fact that Judge Crooks said he did not wish to continue as a presiding judge in the matter because he had a conflict of interest made his ruling unlawful, null and void, and of no effect. The stay of the criminal proceedings is set aside. The Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court should make every effort to schedule the matter for trial at the earliest possible date, said the panel in its ruling, delivered by Justice Brown Beckford. In an immediate response, lead attorney for Reed and Pinnock, Hugh Wildman, told the news that he found the judgment strange on the aspect of the law. The court found that Judge Crooks did not make full disclosure and that he made a statement at the end of his ruling that is indicative of his state of mind, said Wildman, who had argued that the ruling by Judge Crooks represented a conflict of interest, apparent bias, unconscious bias, and a breach of the constitutional right to a fair hearing by an impartial court. But in its ruling, the full court noted that Judge Crooks, prior to the hearing of the application, indicated to all the parties that he might have a potential conflict of interest as he knew one of the accused in the matter. He also informed the parties that if there was no objection from either side, he would have no problem dealing with the matter at the case management. At the time he delivered his ruling, Judge Crooks said, "I am recusing myself for more than one reason. Apart from having hearing the arguments, there is a possible conflict of interest. At least one of the defendants is relatively well known to me, so I don't think I ought to be the person who will try this matter." According to the full court, no objection was taken by or on behalf of Reed or Pinnock to Justice Crooks continuing to hear the matter on any occasion, nor did any party seek any further information from him concerning his indication of a potential conflict of interest. The learned CJPC did not make full disclosure of his potential conflict of interest. However, some indication of the possible source of conflict was given. The court finds that the claimant, through their counsel, must be taken to have unequivocally waived their right to further disclosure from the learned CJPC, said the full court. The court finds further that it was not open to the claimant to wait and see how their application to dismiss the charges turned out before pursuing their complaint of bias, added the full court. Reed Pinnock, Reed's wife Sharon, their daughter Sherelle, and the Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Brownstown Division, Kim Brown Lawrence, have been charged in connection with a nearly $50 million fraud, which was allegedly diverted from the Ministry of Education and the CMU. They are facing a range of offenses, including breaches of the Corruption Prevention Act, conspiracy to defraud, misconduct in a public office at a common law, and the breaches of the Proceeds of Crime Acts. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.